Hey everyone, I'm Mike Settele, the founder of Settele Tutoring, and it is time once again for some SAT predictions, this time for the October 2024 exam. Let me start by saying what I always say in these videos. If you've been practicing, if you've been studying, you do not need me or anyone else to make predictions about what's going to be in the test. You know what's going to be in the exam. It's going to be the same topics and strategies and traps that you've been seeing on your practice tests and other study materials. Just keep doing what you've been doing and you should be fine. Still, I know that lots of people want to hear what I have to say about the October SAT, and based on some feedback from the August exam, I do have some predictions, specifically based on people who said they couldn't finish the hard questions and hard modules within the time limit. So, my prediction for the October SAT is that the highest scores are going to come from people who are mastering the middle, okay? And I'm going to give you 3 practice questions to show you what I mean, but first, let's define what I mean by the middle. Specifically, let's use the hard math module and the 22 questions in it to understand this concept. We can chop those questions into thirds, basically, where most people are going to be focused on the last third, questions 15 to 22, where we know the hard questions are. Remember, any math module is going to be organized by difficulty with the easiest questions at the beginning. So you do definitely need to be mastering those easy questions at the beginning. If you are struggling there, then my guess is you are just barely getting into the hard module. Maybe you're getting a few wrong in the first one, but enough to put you here. For those people, don't really worry about questions 15 to 22. Do the best you can. Probably you're going to end up guessing randomly on a few of them. Make sure you lock in points on everything else. But for many people, it's that middle grouping of questions that really matters. You're all focused on questions 15 to 22. You run out of time there. And yes, we have strategies that can help make some of those questions a little bit easier, but there's nothing that's going to make them look like easy questions. They're always going to be hard and time consuming, and they probably take about 2 to 3 minutes a piece, even at your best. So that means we need to make sure we save enough time for those hard questions. And I think a lot of you are getting lost in the middle grouping of questions. So if we master the middle group, we save time for the hard questions. So even if you're getting the middle questions right, you're probably doing them wrong and losing time unnecessarily. So I'll show you what I mean. And this does apply to the reading questions as well. Even though those are not in order of difficulty, there are still some kind of middle difficulty questions that you need to be getting right quickly and confidently to be able to save enough time for the hard passages and hard vocab questions. So we'll look at some of that too. So let's start by looking at a math question that I would definitely find in those 18 to 14 range of the hard module. For this kind of middle difficulty math question, there are really only a few seconds before I know exactly what to do to solve. In the given equation, A and B are constants. If the equation has no solutions, what is the value of A? Okay, number of solutions. Is there an x squared? There's no x squared, means that these are lines. When there's lines, no solutions means that they have the same slope. Oh, but there's just one equation. Where do you see same slope? Just split it in half. Now we have a slope on the right of 9/7 because that's attached to the x. This thing is a mess, but I know that y equals mx plus b is what I want to get back to. I don't care about this part at the end with the b, so let's divide the 4 into this and get our slopes. That means negative a over 4 is going to be our slope. Same slope means set them equal. Negative a over 4 is equal to 9/7. Get rid of it by moving the negative 4, the negative and the 4 over. All that goes away, and we get negative 36/7. That is my answer. That took me less than a minute. That's how long it needs to take you. You need to be able to move through this topic quickly and confidently. You need to be able to recognize it instantly. This is not something where you can have any hesitation. If this would have taken you a minute, 2 minutes to get right, then you are wasting time that you need for the truly hard questions that are going to come later. This is just a middle difficulty question, and the SAT absolutely loves this topic. So if my explanation was too fast for you, you have not mastered the middle, at least when it comes to this topic. I put my lesson on the number of solutions for no x squared situations in the description. Take a look at that. Now let's look at how the mastering the middle might look on a reading question. Of course, the middle difficulty reading question is a grammar question. As soon as I look at these answer choices, I am pretty sure it's testing modifiers. It takes me 2 seconds to figure that out. I see a comma right here that kind of corroborates what I'm thinking. Let's read it, and I know exactly what I'm looking for. The 14th century saw great experimentation in literary devices, as shown by William Wendover's famed poem, The Tavern. Composed in the style of a dream vision, a popular genre during the medieval period. Okay, so that's a bit of a distraction there. I can ignore that. What was composed in the style of a dream vision? Wendover? No. No, that's a person. The Black Death's arrival? Nope, that can't be composed. After the Black Death arrived in London in 1349, Wendover? Nope, that doesn't work either. That's the same guy. Wendover's only poem. Yes, poems can be composed. That's the answer. That's all it would take. Now, this is a great example of the middle kind of question on the reading section. Literally, the grammar questions are the middle of the reading modules. But remember, if we're following our reading pacing strategy, we are going to do the grammar questions first. And the reason is, if we set the right tempo here, if we know our rules and we've mastered them, then every grammar question should be just a few seconds. We should know exactly what they're asking us and exactly what to do to find the right answer. So if you do not know what I just did here, you have not mastered the middle. You have not mastered something the SAT considers a medium to hard question, but one that is very, very predictable. Just like with the last question, my lesson on modifiers is in the description. You definitely want to watch it in this last week so that you know how to handle these questions. They're very predictable, and if you can get it as fast as I did, that's going to save you so much time for the long passages where we know we're going to need more time to sort through them. Let's look at one more math question. As soon as I see a question like this, I know exactly what I'm doing to solve. I'm going to plug points into equations. So let's read the story. Luis rents a truck at a rate of $50 per day. Which of the following equations represents the total cost C in dollars to rent the truck for W weeks? Well, that's a weird way of thinking about it. Let's make it 1 week. That means it's $50 per day times 7 days. Well, that's $350. Now, if I put that in here, 50 over 7 is not 350. 7 over 50, not 350. 50 plus 7, not 350. 50 times 7, 350. Done. Now, this is a great example of not just knowing the facts that we need for these kinds of math questions, but also the strategies. And many of you think of things like arithmetize, which I did here, not as default moves that you make on these kinds of middle questions, but as things you only use on the hard stuff when your normal strategies fail. That's not a good way to look at this. This takes very little time. And I know that some of you are going to be able to get the answer just by looking at the choices and kind of thinking about the story, but I don't want to leave any room for error or hesitation. So by picking a number of weeks, I'm able to very quickly see what's going on, understand the story in a much more intuitive way, and solve confidently. This needs to be part of how you approach those middle difficulty questions. So let's talk more generally about strategies we can use to really master the middle on the SAT. One of the most obvious things we can do to master the middle grouping of questions is memorize the rules and formulas, right? So if there's anything that you don't understand, any rules that you don't know, any formulas you haven't fully memorized, that's going to lead to hesitation or even wrong answers on the test. Definitely go to my channel homepage, look at my lessons on all the grammar rules, on all the math formulas. Those are great things to review this week so that you are totally confident in the topics that you are going to see on the test. But it's obviously more than that. We need to know when to deploy the right topic. And so for grammar, this is explicitly our strategy. We need to be able to look at the answer choices and predict the relevant rule before we start reading that paragraph and solving the question. So I have a lesson in my strategy series dedicated to this idea. Make sure you watch that, and it'll come up anytime I go over a grammar question on a practice test or any of the question bank grammar sets. This same thing happens in math, though. We also need to be able to recognize which topics are being tested. The SAT is really good at taking the same topics we see in all the practice materials and disguising them so that they're harder to recognize. You need to be able to notice that when they talk about no solutions, that means a very specific thing that gets you on a path to solve very quickly. So in the middle groups of questions, a lot of people are hesitating because they can't identify the topic. Even though they eventually solve it, it takes them too long. So that's a great place to focus so you save time for those hard questions. Beyond that, in math, I think it's really important to make sure that the SAT math strategies that I talk about are your default move. So PPIE is plug points into equations. ATMZ stands for arithmetize. If you don't know what those words are, go to my strategy series lessons on those rules. It is really important that you are thinking about those strategies even on stuff where you know how to solve it using traditional algebra. In that middle grouping of questions, the traditional algebra can often be slow, or it can cost you some careless mistakes, make you fall for traps. So if we are defaulting to the strategies, we are much more likely to get those questions right efficiently. And we're strengthening that skill for when we truly need it on the hard questions. But like I said before, guys, the hard questions are going to be time consuming even when we use strategies. So the real work of getting a better score comes in that middle grouping of questions where if we are fast and efficient, we can save time to really tinker with those hard questions later and those hard reading passages. One of the best things we can do during this week is if we take a practice test, make sure that we save the bookmarks. I have a whole lesson on the importance importance of bookmarks. I'll put that in the description. But remember that the Blue Book app does not save the questions that you mark for review. So you should record that on your scratch paper so you have even more things to go over after you've taken a practice test. Specifically, as I'm taking a test, I am thinking about every question on 3 dimensions. Was I quick? Was I confident? Was I correct? Now that last one is where most of you focus, and we only know that after the fact, right? After we get our scores back. But those other 2 dimensions are very important to think about in the moment. You might get a question right, but if it takes you 2 minutes, that might be an opportunity to save some time and get it right faster. So you should be marking that question for review, writing it down as a bookmark. That way, even if you got it right, you know to go back to it and watch my video explanation to see if there was a better way. If you're getting an answer that you're not confident in, again, maybe you guessed and you got lucky, but maybe there was a way to be 100% sure. My explanation videos for all the practice tests will always tell you the best way to solve. So hopefully that is enough to start thinking about the best ways to handle the middle grouping of questions. If you're looking for even more practice, definitely check out my channel homepage. But remember that people who pay to do a channel membership get access to unique questions that I have written. I've got tons on the grammar rules and especially on the hard, twisted math questions that we will see in that last grouping of the hard module. So once you've mastered the middle, my channel membership is a great place to get extra practice to really start thinking about those hard ones. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. If this video helped you, give me a like, give me a subscribe. Let me know how you do on your October SAT when the scores come back. Once again, I'm Mike Settele, the founder of Settele Tutoring. And remember, when it comes to your scores, don't settle for less, Settele for more. Good luck on your October SAT, and thanks so much for watching.